Jen here with a YA book review for you of The Disappearances. And if this book looks familiar, it was in a shelf love crate box. I think it was either June or July. I can't recall off the top of my head which one it was, but it was the one with the mystery Shakespeare town theme. And I'd like to talk to you about this book because it's kind of unlike anything I've ever read before. So this is going to be kind of hard to review only because it's a mystery, so I don't want to give away any of the plot elements. So going into this book, I had no idea what to expect. I know based on the theme of Shelf Love Crates box that it had to do with Shakespeare, but other than that I really didn't know too much. And the story starts right away and is kind of revealed to the reader in a backwards fashion due to the mystery component. And it takes place in the 1940s, and if I had to sum it up, I kind of say it's like historical fiction a teeny tiny bit, but then it's like speculative fiction and magical realism, kind of all rolled into one. So I like to say, after completing my read, that if you like A Million Junes, The Love That Split the World, even The Raven Cycle, or a book like The Night Circus, then I have a feeling that you would probably enjoy this book as well. Overall on Goodreads, it has over, the average rating is over 4 stars. So, and I think there's like 800 reviews at the time that I'm making this video. So the feedback on this book is really good. At first I was a little confused. You know, the first third of the book, like, it was enjoyable, but it hadn't really grabbed me yet. And then kind of what slowly started happening, just as the story slowly, you know, unraveling the mystery, I started getting like more and more invested and attached. And I would find that when I wasn't reading, I usually read at night, that I would still be thinking about like what was going on in the story and reacting to it and trying to predict what was going to happen. So what started out as like a 3.5 star maybe rating for me for like the first third of the book turned into like a 4.8 or like 5. I don't know if I want to say it's a 5 star, but the more I think about it, the more I think it might be a 5 star read for me. I actually bumped up my Goodreads review to 5 stars. But this book just really stuck with me, and it's about a 16-year-old girl, I think 16, 17. I know she comes of age, which I can't recall if it was 17 or 18 in the story. But it's in the 1940s, and at the very beginning her mom has just passed away. Her brother's 8, and he's kind of annoying, I guess I would say. You know, typical like 8-year-old boy, you know, whatever. And her father is drafted, so he's going to go to sea or whatever. And now the interesting thing is, and I don't know when this was implemented, because maybe it wasn't implemented till later, that I thought if there was a possibility that someone going to war would like orphan a child or child and siblings, that the parent wasn't drafted, but who knows, like, it's a story. So maybe they needed the money, or maybe that rule wasn't implemented yet, or maybe, you know, sometimes you have to suspend disbelief when you read stories, you know, to make things happen. So the girl and her brother, the girl's name is Alia and her brother's Miles, they're sent to Sterling, which is where her mother used to live. And they're going to stay with her mother's childhood friends, like, who became like sweethearts and married each other, and their son Will. And Will is like a year older than Alia, and they met when they were small, but they kind of don't really remember. And basically they're not really warmly welcomed, and that's because their mother kind of left a bitter taste in the town's mouth. So Alia starts picking up on these like weird things that happen, you know, like there's no mirrors in the house, and you know, like she goes out to the garden and she can't smell any of the flowers. And so when she finally asks like what is this, she finds out that every 7 years the town and 2 other towns go through something called the Disappearances, where something disappears. So they've lost dreams and smells, they lose the stars, and different things like that just like disappear with no explanation. So how the town has coped with this thing is that there's a couple people, including the gentleman that they're living with, Will's father, who creates these things called variants. And there's different types of variants. There's a variant that you can, spread all over yourself that keeps you warm, and things, like of that nature. And there's ones to help memory recall and, called Mind's Eye, but it's like banned in school and things like that. Then there's kind of ones that are like more frivolous and kind of like not as kosher, I guess I could say. For example, that let them have just like fun kind of. So that's the main component of the story, is that there's a lot of kickback because nobody can figure out who is causing this. And if you know life, you know that people want someone to blame for things, and they can't figure out who's causing this, and they suspect her mother, Juliet, was what they call the catalyst for these. And one of those reasons is because Juliet was the only person who ever left the town and who was able to regain these things back. Because even if these people leave, they still can't smell or whatever once they go to another town, and they just kind of have to adapt. So the town really keeps together, and things are kind of leading up to two events. One is a Christmas ball, and another is the Harvest Fair, where this is the 7th year. How convenient, right, for Alia and Miles to be there, and everyone's just kind of waiting. Like, they try to welcome it in, even though like they never know what's going to disappear. And so they have this Harvest Fair, and then things kind of start to evolve as there's like a school competition that Alia is going to compete in, and things just kind of like spiral from there. So in addition to that storyline, there's a separate storyline, and I think this is the part that kind of like jolted me a little bit in the beginning. There's these italicized chapters that are told from a person's perspective, which I don't want to reveal because it's not revealed to you right away, who has some connection to Juliet, but you can't quite figure out what it is yet. And he, the time frame like starts to line up with the dates on the chapters of Alia's experience. So they kind of start behind, and then they start to catch up, and then they start to overlap. And this person, like, you kind of can't tell if this person is good or if this person is bad. And this person kind of starts experimenting with these like variants and wants to do more with them. And it's kind of messed up. It's kind of sinister, if we're being honest. And there were a couple parts of that I had to skim over involving like lab mice, but it didn't really affect my viewing of the story or whatever to skim over those parts. But the mystery begins to unravel, and it kind of becomes like, can Alia and Will, and then she has these friends that she makes at the new school, George, and I'm actually not sure how to say the other girl's name. It's Beas, and I never came to a conclusion of really how to pronounce that in my head. Like, I don't know if it's Beas or what, but I was actually going to look it up and forgot. But anyway, so she has these friends, and they're trying to unravel this mystery, and then there's like this adorable slow simmer romance, and that evolves throughout the story. And it feels appropriate because it's the 1940s and it's World War II. And just as the story ended, I felt a lot of emotions. Like, I was really happy with the ending of the story. I got teary-eyed at a couple parts involving, Alia's view of her mother and their loss, and with the romance. Like, it made me so happy. And this is just a lovely story. And one of the other great things is that the cover actually has to do with the book, so that's kind of fun. But this book is by Emily Bain Murphy, and I totally am looking forward to other works by her. I believe this is her debut novel. Yeah, this is her debut novel. I actually signed up for her newsletter on her website. She's also active on Instagram because I tagged her in one of my photos of this book, telling her how much I loved it. She also has a blurb up here by Stephanie Garber, who wrote Caraval, and this book is just, it's really not like anything that I've ever read before, and I think it's a book that I don't reread a lot. I very rarely reread. Every now and then there will be a couple books that grab my heart and that I'll reread periodically. So like A Million Junes, I'd like to reread The Raven Cycle. I used to always reread The Giver and The Time Traveler's Wife every few years. And I feel like this is going to be one of those books that I want to reread. So if you're looking for a unique read that has some magic and that has a mystery, then you totally need to check out The Disappearances. In the meanwhile, happy reading.